Nobody planned it that way. It's that way as far back as I'm able to discover in statistics. It's that way in about every industrial society. About 1/6 goes to the owner, about 5/6 goes to the workers, and the owners and workers are not separate, but almost everybody is, in a certain sense, worker. Almost even to the president of the bank, the janitor, or the tellers, they're all workers. And almost everybody is also a capitalist in the sense that he owns shares of stock, or an insurance policy, or a profit-sharing plan, or a retirement plan of some kind. Almost everybody is both worker and capitalist, and the division is about 1/6 in the role as capitalist and about 5/6 is the role as worker. And this is the way it works out. So we can say, in effect, that wages are a function of technology and profit is a function of technology. And so when Karl Marx says, rereading that little tract, what is the general law that determines the rise and fall of wages and profit in their reciprocal relation? They stand in inverse proportion to each other. Marx was standing on his head. They stand in direct proportion to each other. And both are a function of capital investment. Wages and profits are in proportion. And of course, if this is true, there's no class struggle. Wages are not raised by good intentions. They're not raised by collective bargaining, by minimum wage laws or welfare legislation. Wages are a function of productivity. And productivity obtains the fastest where the technology is the greatest, and this is where you have a profit motive. Any questions? Is this clear? Wages are a function of productivity, a function of technology. I make the point that collective bargaining doesn't raise wages, and go further than this and say the only possible effect of unions is to hold down wages. But again, you have to look beyond the surface. For instance, suppose that the teachers in an area, or teachers in the room, decide to bargain collectively, join a union, go on strike if necessary to extract a greater return than they would through regular market bargaining. They win a wage increase after they strike, and therefore, ipso facto, unions did raise wages if you stop there. But if you think a little deeper, you realize that when the teachers get a wage increase, the taxpayers get a wage decrease. There is no real increase in productivity or no real increase in wages through collective bargaining. Well, you can say, well, suppose we get a wage increase from General Motors. We'll take it out of profits. You can't squeeze profits, because when you do, the marginal operators go out of business, the Studebakers and the Packards and the Hudsons. And the ones that are left can raise their price. And when profits become above a certain norm, people start to expand, the manufacturers expand, and then it gets more competitive, and then the profits are squeezed. So it's almost like a servo mechanism. It's almost like the invisible hand. You can't squeeze profits. So wages and profits are a function of technology. And if you were going to increase wages, bargain collectively, how would you do it? Would you do it by getting a bigger share of the pie? You can't do it. You can't squeeze profits. The actions of businessmen are not arbitrary, but they're subject to the laws of the market. The way you get greater wages is to increase the pie, increase the size of the pie. And that comes through technology, productivity and technology. And the unions, through feather bedding, through strike losses, through union dues, tend to hold wages down. And you'll hear businessmen say, well, at one time the unions were too strong, but they were necessary. I make the point that the unions always have been a factor in holding wages down, and if unions had never existed, wages would be higher today than they are. Wages are a function of technology. Profits are a function of technology. Wages and profits are in direct relation and not inverse relation.